How much difference there is between stability and instability? These are some of the worries of the World Bank President Kim Jong-Kim, who has painted a grim economic picture of the world economy, not with the war in Syria and the influx of millions of refugees, coupled with the drastic decline in the price of crude oil threatening global economic stability. On her own part, the IMF chief, Christine Lagarde, called for more cooperation among global economies and pledged to help its members meet economic growth objectives, including devoting more resources to protect vulnerable countries. They were both speaking at the opening conference of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank spring meetings in Washington, D.C.
Also, because of the weak global economy and because of global challenges, the demand for our services has never been higher outside of a crisis period. We project that we'll provide more than $25 billion in loans this year to middle-income countries. That's $10 billion more than we had projected. Including this year's projections, World Bank lending will top $150 billion in the last 4 years, more than any other four-year span in the World Bank's history in a non-crisis period. For us, it's a fundamental issue of trust. If you're trying to end extreme poverty, avoiding taxes, avoiding payments, taking state assets out of a country, these are all very, very damaging. One thing that I want to stress is that I think for anyone who's involved in these kinds of activities, the message I'd send is transparency is not going to move backwards. The world is going to become only more and more transparent as we move forward. And so I would just say that be very careful.
We expect global growth this year to be at 3.2% and 3.5% next year. This makes it harder to spread economic warmth to the citizens of the globe. And it is not enough to lift living standards, reduce debt, and create sufficient opportunities for the nearly 200 million people around the world who are officially unemployed and looking for a job.
China's economy grew at an annual rate of 6.7% in the first quarter of 2016. And that's the slowest quarterly growth in the Chinese economy in 7 years. But, however, in line with expectations in China's own growth targets, in the final quarter of last year, the economy expanded by 6.8%. Friday's figures confirm the slowing trend in the world's second largest economy. Investments in industrial assets and infrastructure registered a surprise jump by 10.7% in the 3 months to March ending when compared to the same period last year. Consumers also appear to be spending, with retail sales showing a robust 10.5% increase in the month under review, March to be precise. Back home in Nigeria, the Securities and Exchange Commission has announced an extension of its free window E-Dividend registration for investors. The decision, which was reached at the first quarterly meeting of the Capital Market Committee on Wednesday, comes after a deadline of April the 13th. The E-Dividend registration was part of the broader conversation Temple Ashaju Channel's business producer had on Thursday with the SEC chief, Munir Guazo, here in Lagos.
All right, thank you, Temple. We needed to extend it so that we'll give more opportunity for investors to register. From the statistics we got in January, we had just about 926 people that have registered. But happily enough, as of yesterday, we've gotten about 4,820 something investors that have registered, which means we've had, within the period of 4 months, we've had almost 400% increase. And statistics shows that we have almost 3 million Nigerians that are invested in the capital market. So it's a long haul. We think one of the incentives that we can provide to investors for them to go and register is if they know that they are not going to pay any kobo. So even though the arrangement we have with NIPS and CBN is that the concession is for 3 months, which expired yesterday, SEC files as a major protector of investors and also in its capacity for, as one that is supposed to develop the market, should be able to bear the cost. So that's why we now underwrote the cost from today till the next 150 days so that investors would now go and continue to be registered, to now register.
And then what kind of campaign will we be seeing the SEC embarking on going forward?
Very good. We want to leverage on the electronic media. We want to go and meet the leadership of media houses I will come and see Mr. John Momo, so that we express appreciation, SEC and the capital market, for what Channels is doing to the capital market. Every day under the business forum column, we see report on the activities of the of the stock exchange, of the capital market. We've also seen the collaboration Channel is having with FMDQ, and importantly, Channels is the only media house that has dedicated a particular time for capital market, 7 to 7:30 every Saturday, without even a request from SEC or NSE. So we want to appreciate that, and we also want to call upon the media houses to also support this initiative. It's an initiative for everybody in this country, and see how we can collaborate and assist. And we also intend to see the Minister of Information, so we can also reach out to him.
The recapitalization exercise of market operators has also ended. It came to an end sometimes in September last year. And now you have just announced that there will be another extension till December 31st. What is the key driver or rationale behind this move, sir?
What we said was, as at 30th of September, we came up with a list of companies that had met the minimum requirement. But after 30th of September, any firm that is able to show evidence that they have recapitalized, we now allow them to operate in the market. We've given the grace period from 30th of September to 31st of December the following year. So from now to end of December, end of the year, any operator that shows that evidence that they have recapitalized, we will now do the verification and will now allow them. But after 31st of December, anybody that is not able to recapitalize, then the license will now be cancelled. It also gives us opportunity before the final cancellation of the license to make sure that shares that had been held with that particular firm are actually being moved to another firm. So most of the housekeeping exercise would also be completed within the last quarter of the year, so that by the time we are revoking the license, we make sure that the investors' interests are fully protected.
There are also some capital market related laws that the Capital Markets Committee and the SEC is looking at reviewing, talking about the likes of CAMA and that of the IST, the Investment and Securities Tribunal. Now, what are the specifics in these laws that are due for revision?
Yes, I'm happy to say that the Parliament is very keen on reviewing some of these laws. Most of our interactions, both with the Capital Market Committee, the House Committee, and also the Committee on Legislative Drafting and whatever, have appreciated the fact that the capital market needs to be supported. Have also appreciated the fact that there are some laws that needed to be reviewed. The committee has also confirmed to us that already the Investment and Securities Act, CAMA, PENCOM, and other laws are going to be reviewed. Now, we don't want to do what has been the practice in the past, which is when a law is being reviewed, you get memorandum from different sectors and different stakeholders in the capital market. We want, as Capital Market Committee, come out as one. So if there's going to be an amendment in ISA, let it be the recommendation of the Capital Market Committee, not recommendation from SEC, a different recommendation from Solicitors Association, a different recommendation from the Stockbroker Association. No, let it come from the Capital Market Committee.
Now, Kenya is seeking more private investments in state infrastructure to maintain the pace of spending on new railways and other vital assets while reducing the budget deficit. East Africa's biggest economy aims to cut the deficit to 6.9% of the GDP in the fiscal year starting July from a forecast 8.1% for 2015 and 2016 period. And that's in the bid to reassure investors unnerved by the large gap.
Finance Minister Henry Rotich said the government had initiated several public-private partnership projects to build roads, energy plants and housing. He didn't give a value. PPPs have been touted as a valuable route to fund new roads, airports, seaports, railways and power plants across Africa, a continent that struggles with creaking infrastructure. But analysts say such financing has often stumbled over government guarantees and revenue sharing arrangements.
We could start looking at other options of funding. A PPP model would work perfectly. If you look at the airport, for example, there are many people willing to put up an airport and collect revenues on the back of that. If you look at even on commuter rail, there are many people who are willing to put in the capital to fund it as their own equity, as long as we guarantee a certain certain return for them from subsidy, for example. So we just have to come up with a lot more other creative ways of raising the funds other than through the exchequer. But cutting on infrastructure investment will not be the right way.
Projects like a mega port on the North Kenyan coast conceived in the 1970s are vital arteries for East African trade, handling fuel and other imports for landlocked neighbors including Uganda, Ethiopia and South Sudan. The region's main exports, tea and coffee, are also shipped out of the coastal city of Mombasa. Investors from South Africa, the United States and Asia had all expressed interest in parts of a $12.4 billion transport corridor linked to the planned port. 3 initial berths are being built by a Chinese firm.
The investment in infrastructure had a significant multiplier effect on the economy, and the realization that with every large infrastructure, then it actually leads to a lot more economic activity along that corridor. So if you think of the Thika Road that was done, if you think of now the other major highways, and even on the rail network, because with that the SGR, with being such a huge investment in itself, we've seen the impact that it has had, but also more is actually the impact that it will have once it's complete.
The ministry is now working on projects that include expanding Kenya's main port in Mombasa and the Nairobi International Airport, as well as new road projects around the country. Kenya, which acts as a trade gateway for landlocked neighbors, is also building a new standard gauge railway, replacing the slower narrow gauge line between Mombasa and Nairobi at a cost of 327 billion shillings. The line is expected to open in June 2017.